Probably about 15 years ago, I was put into contact with a gentleman in South Carolina who had an amazing treasure trove of antique parts for Bugattis, as well as several original chassis that were all in unrestored condition. In with all of those parts, he supplied us with a chassis and basically complete driveline for a Type 57, which was a road-going version of the Type 59, I mean, loosely based. And you know, it was a really nice piece, but I really didn't have any interest in it at that time, and hadn't really done any research or anything, so, you know, it was sort of backburnered. Once we'd finished the Grand Prix car, I started kicking around. I looked at it and went, well, if I restore it as a Bugatti chassis, I mean, it's pretty cool, but then it's just going to be a chassis with an engine, and what do you do with it? So I actually started looking at various bodies at that time. And there was a bunch that I really, really liked, but most of them were of cars that still existed in various collections and that. I thought, well, that's sort of, it would be stupid building something that already exists. But the one I kept coming back to was photographs of a car called the Aerolith, which was a design concept basically of its period, and the forerunner of the very famous Bugatti Atlantiques. And I spent about 3 years doing research, found out there was very, very little available in the car. There was only at that time 11 photographs, and most of those, about half of them, showed the same angles. So there was very, very little information. Initially when I offered the project, because I knew that it was far in scope, it was far too big for me to want to handle by myself, so I just wanted to look for a partner, basically somebody to fund the project. And the first guy on deck was Nicolas Cage, and he was really enthusiastic. He's a hell of a car guy, and you know, the whole project sort of piqued his interest. He sent his manager up to go over the whole project with me, and the chap he sent really didn't like the idea of having to travel back and forth from LA to Toronto, you know, twice a month. And he sort of threw a wet towel on the whole thing after about 6 months. But just as we were sort of giving up, a gentleman from the States phoned, who I believe had been speaking to Ralph Lauren, and got a referral. And he phoned up, found out about the project, and he basically, at that point, pulled the trigger. He said, yeah, let's go. And you know, I couldn't have asked for a better partner in this thing. Chris Orstrom is chairman of the World Monuments Fund. He had companies involved in creating original styles of handmade wallpaper from the 17th and 18th century. He's restored, you know, things like Ben Franklin's family home, and I mean, really significant American landmarks, and he's involved in the maintenance and preservation of monuments around the world. I mean, things like Angkor Wat and the pyramids and are all on his list of pet projects. So he absolutely understood what we were trying to do. He hadn't done a car before, but he understood the whole philosophy behind it. And one of the most wonderful things was he never rushed us, and he always insisted that we build this car the same way it would have been done in 1935. So although we had some more modern techniques and things like that we could have used on the car, and in some cases we did, just to speed things up a little bit, but before he would allow us to do that, we had to get good at the way it was done in 1935. So if we were going to use exotic gases to do welding on this, he wanted us to learn how to weld it how they would have done it in 1935 first. And largely, modern techniques, we used only tiny amounts of modern techniques in this. It was basically the entire car built the same way it would have been done in 1935.